Yeah, I'm just gonna take the iPhone 13. Last year's iPhone 12 was a pretty big deal. It was a new design, it gave us a new form factor with the Mini, and there was a lot of things to like about it, and it was obviously a pretty big success. Apple sold, I believe, between one and more than one of the iPhone 12s. Enter the iPhone 13, and I think the overall reaction from the general public was an apathetic one. The updates didn't seem all that big for most people. That's not always the whole story. You can't always get the essence of a phone, much like a people, from just sort of reading about it or using it for a day or two. So I want you to compare the iPhone 12 and the iPhone 13. And obviously the 13 is going to be a better phone, it's a newer phone, but going to this video with the question, is it worth upgrading if you have an iPhone 12 or even an iPhone 11 or older? All right, so let's start these versus videos like I always love to do. It is blind camera time between the 13 and the 12. So let's see if you can tell which one is which, and don't cheat. Throw which one you think it is in the comments before you see the answer. So you might be thinking to yourself, John, you're tricking me. Clearly these are from the same phone, and you would not be crazy to think that. Difference between these two phones on the main wide shooter, very, very small. So there are slight differences if you look and kind of do some pixel peeping in the highlights and the shadows. And in some photos, you can see the overall image quality is slightly brighter. But other than that, everything else from the main shooters and even portrait mode are so similar, I bet you'd be hard pressed to notice difference in everyday usage. So the iPhone 13 has a very slight advantage in the ultra wide, and it's a little sharper around the edges in some photos. But again, I don't think most people are going to notice much of a difference between those two. When you do see a ginormous difference is we'd expect low light and night mode. So on the 12, there's a tendency to have some noise and a warmer tone to the image. The 13 gives us a little more sort of true to life image with far more accurate white balance, and there is a giant difference this year. I mean, you can look at this, one is obviously better than the other, and it's not even close. So the iPhone 13 has a larger sensor that Apple claims will let in 47% more light. And man, it's very clear that that is working in night mode shots. I mean, just look at like this photo. This is probably the best example I can show you. So not only can you see the dew on the leaf themselves, but one is clearly far better than the other. I'm sure at this point you guessed it. The better photo is the iPhone 13 and the other is the iPhone 12. And if you shoot a lot of low light shots, you will see a huge difference. I don't take that many night mode shots, at least I haven't in the past. Photos just never came out as sharp as I wanted. It's hard to hold my hand steady for those really longer exposures. The 13's new internal sensor shift tech, which came down from the 12 Pro Max, I found it much easier to get sharp and clear night shots. So maybe I'll start using them more often. So first, it doesn't switch into night mode as often because of sort of the bigger sensors. But when it does, those night mode shots happen a lot quicker. So you're not stuck holding your hand in the same spot for nearly as long. So another thing 13 can do that 12 can't is photographic styles. And on the surface, like it's Apple's name for filters. But there's actually a lot more than that. Each of the 5 profiles actually change how the phone processes the image, baking it into each photo that you take. You can't go back and change them after you've taken the photo. The differences here are very subtle between them, but I at least like that it's there. It kind of makes the 13 a bit of a chameleon of sorts. If you ever found yourself preferring sort of the high contrast shots of Samsung or how Google phones process photos, but you're more of an iPhone fan, you can now sort of use these and set it as a default. So every time you open up your camera app and take a photo, it'll be in that photographic style. All right, so for example, here is a default photo taken from the iPhone 13. Here's a default photo taken from the Samsung Galaxy S21. And here is a photo of rich contrast turned on from the iPhone 13. You you can see it is very close to what Samsung is offering. So again, the iPhone 12 doesn't have this feature, but truthfully, I probably won't be using them all that much once the novelty starts to wear off. I know who I am as